Hello everyone! Guess where I am? Some of you might recognize it just by me pointing in this direction, but I'm sure you will recognize it if I go this way. Look at this beauty. It is the HMS Warrior, which I will get to visit a bit later, and that's the main building of the Portsmouth Historic Dockyard. This has been a dream of mine for many years, and I finally get to visit it. I am so happy. I will likely make several videos focusing on this, probably breaking it down to ships and museums and other bits and bobs. So come join me on this fantastic historic and naval wandering. Let's go! Right, I think this is the main gate just off Queen Street, and I'm gonna make my way in a second. As you can see, the weather is really overcast and windy, but it's better than yesterday. When I arrived, it was raining and pouring and it was absolutely horrible. And look at that. Let me zoom on. The wall was built between June and December 1711. How cool is that? And it goes up all the way around, and the gate as well. Yeah, 1711. I am including this as an FYI because I wasn't sure. I have friends who have been and told me that the cruise is included, but obviously that's not the case any longer, which is a shame. But let's go in. There's a back search channel. Right, let's see. Right, I have bought my ticket online. I thought that's gonna speed up everything, but looks like everybody else has, and there's a massive queue. And it's just past 10 o'clock, so it only opened a few minutes ago. There's a few exhibit bits, but I am gonna show you this, the cat o' nine tails. No, you don't want to be whipped with something like this. It was used to carry out formal punishment for certain crimes committed on board a ship. Okay, I am officially in now, and I'm trying to figure out what to do first. The natural inclination of most people is to go straight to the HMS Warrior, but I believe I will leave that for much later, or even possibly tomorrow. I want to strategize everything so I can fit it in. I have 2 full days to spend here, and I want to make the most of it. But I can't help myself not to look at this beauty. Wow. It's still too windy today, so I'm gonna try and do more of the indoor activities and more of the outdoor ones tomorrow, when it should be nicer. Right, that's where the back check was, but then you had to go inside that building and come out. Okay, as I'm gonna walk towards the attraction I want to start with, which is the Mary Rose Museum, let me tell you briefly a little bit about this dockyard. It is one of the most important historic naval sites in Britain, and this is a place where more than 500 years of maritime history can be seen all around you. From famous warships and museum galleries to the atmosphere of a working naval base that is still active today. And I'm looking around to try and remember what and where it is. A mini port. Okay, that one says restaurant, and I think there's a store in there, and apprentice exhibition. Right, I didn't even know that that's there. Let's see, what boat did this come off from? I'll let you read it. The HMS Bamboo. And there you go, you can see now the figurehead properly. Beautiful memorial. They called Standing with Giants at the British Normandy Memorial. Right. Now, Portsmouth has been linked with the Royal Navy for centuries, and the dockyard has played a central role in that story. It began as a royal and military center in the Middle Ages, and over time it developed into one of the most important naval dockyards in the country. Some amazing buildings. Now, this is a place where ships were built, repaired, fitted out and sent out from here for major campaigns, wars and voyages that shaped British history. I'm just reading the plaques on the buildings. That's Historic Ships Conservation Workshop. It is something they did a lot, especially with the Mary Rose, but I'll tell you about that later. There's so many different segments. Wow. I think that large ship in front of us is the HMS M33. There we go. Let's see it better. Now, what makes the dockyard especially interesting is the way it shows the long evolution of naval power. In the early days, ships were wooden sailing vessels, powered by wind and armed with cannons. Later came bigger docks, industrial production, steam power, iron warships, and modern naval engineering. And Portsmouth grew and changed with each new era, and that history is still visible on the site today. And I just realized that this is the HMS M33, and that big beast in the background is a massive cargo ship, I think, that's being loaded or unloaded. I have no idea, but it's humongous and there's a lot of activity on it. The entrance to the HMS M33 looks close, so don't think we'll get to see that one. But here is her story, and if you want to pause to read it, please do so. The important part is that it is the last fighting ship from Gallipoli from 1915. There. Now, I have decided that I will be starting the main visit with the Mary Rose Museum. And let me tell you about her a bit. It tells the story of one of the most extraordinary Tudor warships that was ever discovered. The Mary Rose was one of Henry VIII's favorite ships, and today she survives as an incredible time capsule of life in the 16th century Royal Navy. It is all inside there. Now, the Mary Rose sank in 1545 during an action against the French fleet in the Solent, right in front of King Henry VIII himself. The exact cause of the sinking is still debated, but what makes the Mary Rose so remarkable is that she went down with much of her equipment and many of her personal belongings still abroad, which gives historians an unusually detailed picture of life at sea at the time. I'm just staring at the buildings around it, but look at it, look at the shape. It's a weird, kind of like a Noah's Ark interpretation, the way I see it. But before I go in, what else did I want to tell you? Yeah, so the ship was underwater for a good 450 years, and they raised it in 1982, and it was one of the most famous marine archaeology projects ever carried out. The recovery was a huge achievement, and the museum now built around the ship allows visitors to see both the preserved hull and thousands of objects found with her. Let's go see them. Right, there's a presentation, and I'm not going to film that.
Until her wreck was finally located by a group of divers in 1971.
Come closer, everyone. Come here. That's it. Come beside me. I'm not as scared up there. Hard to believe, isn't it? Fearsome war galleys harassing my ships and raiding our coast.
We are on the ship. This is cool. This is really cool. We're sinking! Oh no! That's it. And now we are off to the next part. Map of the gallery. Portrait of the Mary Rose. She was a beauty. One of the cannons that was on her. A massive painting of the Battle of the Solent. The decks. Now, what makes the Mary Rose so fascinating is that she's not just a shipwreck, but she is a complete historical snapshot. And here, for example, we can see some of the kitchen paraphernalia. And for example, you can see scratches and, I don't know, like personalizations, markings of the different sailors or different crew who like to stick to the same bowl or drinking cup. Now she's in there, beyond the glass. I think we can go explore some of it. I'm trying to figure it out. That's the bell of the Rose.
buckles.
Alright. Wow. I didn't know how all of this will be displayed, but now I do. This is absolutely amazing. You can see the different decks layered. Wow. This was a massive restoration project. Because imagine, it was rotting on the seabed for over 400 years. But still a lot of it has survived. Some more of the cannons, cannonballs, the carpenter's cabin, and all the various tools. Another big old cannon. Obviously there's minimal lighting because that is the enemy, so they need to keep only specialized and very low lights. But with your eyes you can actually see it better than through the camera. This is part of the surgeon's cabin. Surgery over 500 years ago was really rudimentary, is I think an underestimation, but at least they try to help. And another one, this one has the platform, and I think it's all there, including the details of the lions back of it. I just spotted the roping for the anchor. Absolutely massive. And there's the tip of it. Wow. Presentation of them loading the cannons and firing. It's pretty cool. There, they have illuminated it a bit, we can see better. Absolutely fascinating. Wow. One more cannon. Oh, there's more, but I want to show you this one. There's some pretty decorations on. Can we see you this way? It's really hard to film because everything is behind glass. But I hope you still get to see it as much as possible. Now, as you would expect, the ship carried a mixed crew of mariners, soldiers and gunners, and the evidence suggests that around 400 men may have been aboard in normal service, with more during wartime operations. That means that life on board would have been very crowded, busy and highly structured, with every man having a job to do. So let's have a look at the different ones that they have displayed. These are from the master carpenter's cabin. He's eating utensils, some books which obviously did not survive really well under the water, and here on this game set, which at the time they called tables and later developed into what we know today as backgammon. And that little object there, it's a leather pot which was found near the gaming set, and it probably contained the dice. And something else that's interesting, you can see the skeleton of a dog. It was the ship's dog, known as Hatch. And he was a young one, about half. And likely something that compares to a modern Jack Russell Terrier. He was found by the entrance to the master carpenter's cabin. Obviously went down with the ship. This is the chest of the master gunner with various bits and bobs. But what I find interesting is the job description that goes with this post. That's what's left of his uniform and some other bits. What I like is number 5, a small pocket sundial. Bits and bobs from a carpenter's chest. Various tools that the shipwrights would have used. Back to the cannons and the shots. You can see the large stone ones and then the smaller and lead ones. And an original Tudor gun. I don't think this was part of the Mary Rose, but here we can figure out and imagine it how they loaded the guns, well, not the guns, the cannons. It's pretty cool. Now this is something interesting I don't think I've seen in any museum before. I'm specifically pointing at these three long wire-like things. They are copper priming wires, and they were used to pierce the gunpowder cartridges before firing and to clean the gun's touch hole after the gun has been fired. And even to them. Okay, here we have more of the surgeon's tools. Now, though it's missing bits, those would have been cautery irons. These were heated over a brazier, and then the red hot iron was applied to seal the veins and stop the bleeding. And I just spotted something else. Can you guess what that one is? It's a urethral syringe. It was used to treat venereal diseases by injecting mercury. Well, and all sorts of pots, small ones, large ones, for various potions and lotions. It's quite amazing that many of these have survived fairly well. Some have holes and bits, but there you go. And some more bits and bobs from the surgeon's chest. He was not just a surgeon, but he was the doctor, the dentist, the pharmacist. The interesting thing is, though, that even though they belonged officially to the company of barbers and surgeons, they did not cut hair or shave any other man's beard or things like that. It would have been too much. And I found another syringe. This was used for draining wounds. Can you guess what this is? It's a cooking cauldron. It's massive. Still dented, but you can make it out. You could certainly fit a lot in there. Wow. And this is the most complete skeleton recovered from the Mary Rose. And it's very likely it belonged to an archer. There's some other bits and bobs which I did not show you. They focus on showing different kind of ailments, fractures, hip trauma, scurvy and other things. And I descended the floor, so we dug down. Wow. I'm still completely mesmerized by this. Reconstruction of a part of the kitchen. Look at that big furnace. That massive bent thing I showed you earlier would have gone there in the middle. Some barrels, flagons, arrows. And you're under attack again. And let's see you one more time till the lights are kind of on. Now on the lower decks would have lived a cook, and this is part of the things they have recovered from his cabin, including his shoes. And we even have his skull. He's one of the 3 people that were named. We don't know the names of the other ones. And this is a reconstruction, well, an interpretation of how he would have looked like. And why Quep? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. More of the cooking pots. Some of the plates they used. They would eat in groups of 10. Of course, there was a difference between the officers and the rest of the crew. They found no evidence of mess tables, which means that likely the crew sat on the decks to eat. Now that's interesting. It's not necessarily the menu, but the allowance of the different quantities they had on different days. I found another skull. This was the skull of the purser, and that's how he likely looked like. And some of the objects from his cabin. This is a good one. You can imagine where his cabin was, the bit that's circled. And he had a lot of responsibilities because other than paying and mustering the crew, he had to keep accounts of the stores, he had to buy supplies, issue the food and drink according to the rations list, and he also was responsible for giving out clothes and lanterns and candles. And that was his chest, full of money. I like this one. It's a gold real worth 10 shillings. It was made in Coventry about 80 years before the Maritime sank. Found another skull. This one is likely of an officer. That possibly could it look like this. And this was part of his belongings. And they kind of betray that he was a wealthy person. You can see the finest English pewter flask, and there was a bronze candle snuffer, leather book, and so forth. I found something I really like. That is the shadow of this model. Let me try it in. Oh, it's not. Is this better? I think so. I really like this. Bits and bobs from another officer's cabin. And what I find interesting is this. There we go. It's a pair of mittens. They were worn one inside the other on the left hand, and the outer one is made of sheepskin with the fleece on the inside. It is possible that they are gloves for hunting with hawks and other birds of prey, which was a popular pastime among gentlemen. So this is a good clue that whoever all these things belonged to was an officer. Moving on to the tools of the pilot. Compasses. He had to do all sorts of calculations. And I found another interesting thing. I've never seen something like this before. This one, the number 7, is a tide calculator. It's a little tool that helped the pilot estimate the time of the high water by taking a bearing on the moon. You can see that it also has deep incisions on the compass points, north and south and all that, which meant that it could be used by touch alone, which was very useful when they were navigating in the darkness of the night. Though it's only partial, it was something like a tool of navigation. It was like a simple means of recording the ship's direction. Again, something interesting. As you can imagine, life on the Mary Rose would have been tough. The crew members slept in cramped conditions, ate plain food, and spent long hours working with sails, guns, ropes and weapons. We are now looking at some of the rigging materials. The ship was both a home and a military platform. So the men on board live with the constant need for discipline, hard labor, and the ever-present risk of battle or disaster. And we have arrived to the section of the armors and weapons. It's a very large display, so I'm gonna try and pan from a distance and then find a few interesting objects to show you. Remnants of the grips of various daggers. Nearly all of them were found next to human remains, so everybody was wearing one. That's a beautiful powder flask. Right, another large display. This is the English longbow, which they call the medieval machine gun. They say that it was the super weapon of its time. It was accurate at distances over 200 meters, and an archer could shoot over 12 arrows every minute. There were over 138 complete longbows recovered from the Mary Rose. And this is the skull of one of the archers with the reconstruction, and they are suspecting he might have been from North Africa. And these would have been part of his belongings. I found another interesting bit here. That little holder was for sweet-smelling herbs and flowers, and it was attached to his sword scabbard with a plaited silk cord. Not something I would expect to see. So that again is, I think, a clue that he might have been originally from somewhere else. These ones are even larger than the ones I showed you before. Oh. Now here's something very interesting. Have you guessed what it is? Let me zoom on. This is the mastop, or the crow's nest. And it's super fascinating because it is the only surviving 16th century mastop in the whole world. Mostly used as a lookout place. In case of need, soldiers could go up there. This one is a fairly small one, so there's only space maybe for one, max 2 people in it. But it's very interesting.
No, it isn't.
Somebody's boss just said no, it isn't. Not to what I was saying, but they had a different conversation, but the sinking of it was quite hilarious. You can try your skill. I'll have a go in a minute. Right, and now we are on the upper deck. Just so you have an idea of the size of all of this, it's very large. Yeah. Okay, one last panning over the wreck of the Mary Rose. Right, this is really cool. It's like a 360 holographic representation of the ship. When you see it not through the lens of a camera, then this spinning thingy in the middle doesn't show. Now, after all the serious stuff, they had to make their life a little bit also. Here's some musical instruments. There's a 4D experience.
This is Harbour Control.
Oh, this is gonna be cool.
Stand by to enter the water. Go!
we've got a whole museum full of objects in that manner.
For years. That's so special.
1 on each leg. There was absolutely no room for error. It had to be in exactly the right place, otherwise the frame could hit and damage the hull.
Preparations could begin. Years after we discovered the first timbers, the Mary Rose was finally lifted off the seabed.
My hand on it, and you could actually feel the whole ship just swaying in the current.
Okay, I had to include one of the Tudor ladies. There's various volunteers, men and women dressed up in period clothing. The presentation I've just seen was amazing. They really made you feel like you're there with the wreck and the lifting of the wreck. And I had to include him, Alexander McKee, who rediscovered the Mary Rose. And of course, Dr. Margaret Rule. She was the director of the excavation and the raising of the ship. And then we end up in the shop. I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about it when I get outside. There's some really cool bits and bobs. Some reconstructions. I'm sure that would make a really interesting read, but I can't buy any more books. I would like this model. Prints and mugs. There's a cafe as well, with an outdoor area too. Right, and I have come out. I need some fresh air. I hope you enjoyed it. I have been absolutely blown away. It's much more than I expected to see. Now, her story after being raised from the seabed is an amazing story of conservation. After the ship was raised, she required decades of careful treatment to preserve the waterlogged timbers. You can see a photo here. And that work remains one of the largest conservation projects ever undertaken. Seeing the hull today is the result of years of scientific and archaeological effort. They have found over 19,000 objects. I hope you feel the same as I do, that the Mary Rose Museum is much more than a display of an old wreck. It is one of the best places in Britain to understand Tudor naval life, the development of warships, and the human story behind one of the most famous shipwrecks in history. I hope you enjoyed this wandering, and make sure you look out for the future ones, because I'll be continuing my wanderings through this amazing dockyard. Until next one. Bye.